Dear students, welcome to week 5 and lecture 1. In week 5, we are going to focus our understanding on processing and financing export orders. Today's lecture is based on steps in processing export orders. Let us begin the journey. First of all, we will go through the contents of today's lecture. At the outset, we'll be talking about the brief introduction about the steps. After that, we'll try to focus on the objectives of export order processing, followed by the export orders where steps will be discussed. Consequently, we will talk about the coordination which is required with external agencies for facilitating exports, followed by role of technology in order processing. After that, we'll try to bring in some common challenges and best practices, and then we will conclude our discussion. At the outset, it is imperative to understand that processing an export order is the operational bridge between contract conclusion and actual shipment. This particular processing of an export is very important phenomena for facilitating trade facilitation. Also, the better the export order processing, the better will be the relationship between buyer and seller, that is, exporter and importer. Processing an export order involves a sequence of coordinated actions across departments and agencies. Export processing orders are systematic orders where processing ensures timely delivery, regulatory compliance, payment realization, as well as customer satisfaction. If we see the payment realization and customer satisfaction, these are two important components which can only be successful if orders are processed carefully and diligently. A wrong processing of an export order will fail to realize any of the payments for the exporter. Similarly, a failed export order will also not reach to customers, or even if it reaches, will fail to satisfy the customers. Thus, processing an export order is very important for export import trade. Efficiency at the time of processing an order directly impacts exporters' reputation in the market, the profitability of the exporter, and repeat business which the company may get from the importer. Let us now try to understand that what are the objectives of export order processing. Export order processing transforms contractual commitments into successful export transactions. Without this particular transformation of the commitments into orders, the business cannot go and the revenue may not continue to go up. It is also an indication that if more of export orders are being processed, the more commitments are being followed and implemented. Export order processing is also based on ensuring adherence to agreed terms on quality, quantity of goods, type of delivery, and documentations to be used. The third objective of export order processing is to minimize delays, errors, and regulatory risk. The more delays are minimized, the better becomes export import trade. The more errors are minimized, the better safety concerns arises in the export-import trade. And similarly, when the regulatory risks are maintained and minimized, the trade flourishes between two countries and that gives boost to the international trade. The next objective is having coordination between internal resources and external partners. Export order processing always talks about bringing a coordination between the resources that belong to the exporters as well as the external partners, that is, other importers that can benefit from the resources of the exporters. The next objective is that export order processing enhances operational efficiency and build trust with overseas buyers. Building trust with overseas buyer is very important to get repeat businesses. In international trade, repeat business is an important phenomena because it minimizes procedural delays. Negotiations are not required because already there has been certain trading agreements, and this makes the business much more successful. Let us now try to see the steps that are involved. The first step is order received and review. In this particular stage, the exporters acknowledges the receipt of confirmed order from an importer. There is cross verification of the order details with contract term such as the product, the price, delivery schedule, INCO, that is international commercial terms, and payment conditions. Also, the order received and revenue stage confirms buyer's credit worthiness if not previously established. Then there need to be checked the credit worthiness of the importer, that is the buyer. After that, in this stage, it is also important to identify any discrepancies that require clarification or amendment in the receipt. And finally, in the stage one, we have to establish a preliminary internal timeline for execution. The second stage belongs to feasibility and capability assessment. In this stage, there is evaluation of the internal capacity of the exporter, whether the exporter will be able to fulfill the order within the timelines or not. This is very important to ultimately answer the question whether the company is ready to bear the order or not. Feasibility and capital assessment also assess the production schedules, raw material availability, and procurement which is required in different times. In addition to this, there is also a consideration for review packaging, labeling, and certification requirements that will be compulsory in order to supply the products to the buyers. Under the second stage, it is also important to identify potential constraints such as capacity, technology, and compliance. In this particular stage, it is where we decide on outsourcing or subcontracting if necessary to complete the order for the importer. Let us move on to the third stage. The stage third is about internal coordination and work allocation. Under this stage, the responsibility is to communicate order detail to all relevant departments, such as production, quality control department, finance department, logistic department, and documentation department. With the help of this, it is important that these particular departments can define roles and responsibilities for each function. The internal coordination and work allocation also create an internal execution schedule which is aligned with contractual deadlines. That is the set. That is the deadline set for supplying the goods to the importer, that is the buyer. It also includes establishing of coordination mechanisms for progress tracking and problem resolution. In a nutshell, internal coordination and work allocation stage ensures management oversight and accountability in the orders. The next stage is regulatory compliance and approvals stage. In this stage, the exporter obtains necessary export licenses, product specific permits, and clearances so that the goods which have been promised may be supplied to the buyer. It also includes checking the destination country's import regulation and if there is any other additional compliance requirements. There is also a need to screen against export control list, sanctions, and trade restrictions. Finally, regulatory compliance and approvals ensure adherence to product standards, labeling laws, and healthy safety norms. Also, regulatory compliance and approvals coordinate with relevant authorities for mandatory inspections or certifications. After that comes the fifth stage in which production planning and control of the quality is set up. In this particular stage, finalization of the production schedule based on shipment timeline is decided. After that, there is a source of raw material which needs to be identified and initiation of manufacturing or assembly starts. In this stage also, implementation of the quality control checkpoints throughout the production processes also are initiated. Also, production planning and quality control also includes arrangement of third party inspection if required by the buyer or if it is required according to certain regulation. Generally, it happens in cases where the goods are hazardous or there are certain sanitary or phytosanitary measure imposed by the importer country. Also, document compliance needs to be properly adhered to with quality standards for traceability and certification. The next stage is stage 6, which talks about documentation preparation. In this stage, the exporter prepares core export documents such as commercial invoice, packing list, certificate of origin, and inspection certificates. Documentation preparation should align all the documents strictly with payment terms, especially the letter of credit conditions. In the same stage, there is a necessity of obtaining attestations from chambers of commerce or industries bodies where necessary. After that, under documentation preparation, it is also important to coordinate with inspection agencies and trade authorities for required certifications. Also, document preparation maintains organized documentation records for regulatory and financial audits. The next stage, the seventh stage, is where packaging, labeling, and markings are completed for the goods to be exported. It includes designing packaging suitable for transit, that is, transport. It should be suitable for the climatic conditions through which the goods will be transited or the climatic conditions of the destination country, as well as the product sensitivity for other different issues. The packaging, labeling, and market should the packaging, labeling, and marking should ensure compliance with destination countries' packaging and labeling regulations. Also, the packaging, labeling, and marking include safety warnings, handling instructions, and legal markings. The stage 7 of packaging, labeling, and marking should be durable. Tamper proof materials should be used so as to prevent damage during transportation. Also, these three things in stage 7 ensures traceability codes or barcodes so that also stage 7 packaging, labeling, and marking should include traceability codes or barcodes so that the goods may be checked wherever required. The next stage is the transport booking and insurance. Under this stage, we select appropriate mode of transport. That is, goods are going to reach to the destination through maritime route, that is sea route, through air, road, or through other multi-modal, that is blend of air, ship, and road transport. This should be based on the delivery terms and the urgency of the products to reach the destination country. In this stage, we can book a cargo space with shipping lines or freight forwarders well in advance so that At the time of deadline, we easily get the space to transit the goods to the destination country. Also, it requires arranging cargo insurance as per contractual obligation under CIF or CIP terms. It is also the responsibility of the exporter to verify the transit time, routes, and expected delivery schedule so that the promises that have been made or that are about to be made to the importer or the buyer are committed and they are proved right. And finally, we have to share the shipment details with the buyer for planning import clearance by the buyer. The next stage is stage 9. In this stage, custom clearance and pre shipment formalities are completed. In this stage, first there is a need to file shipping bill, export declaration, and other mandatory documents with customs authorities. In order to do that, there is a very important need to coordinate with customs brokers and port officials for inspection and clearance. Also, in this stage, we should take care that as exporter should take care and ensure compliance with foreign trade policy, tariff codes, and valuation requirements. We all are aware that foreign trade policy keeps on changing. Therefore, whenever the exporter has to finalize the things, the current or in vogue foreign trade policy should be considered upon. If it is not properly considered upon, then there may be certain crises which may ultimately result in huge losses to the exporter. If there is any issue related to classification or valuation, then those issues needs to be resolved before shipment. In a nutshell, before shipment, each and every clearance issue should be resolved, should be clarified, and the exporter should have clarity in understanding those issues. In the same stage, there should be secure custom clearance certificates prior to loading. It means before loading of the goods on the seaport or the airplane, it is required that the clearance certificate should be taken beforehand so as to avoid any delays in loading of the goods. The next stage is stage 10. It is the stage where shipment execution and dispatch will happen. This is the time when the exporter is waiting for the ship to go away from the origin country towards the destination country. But this is also a critical stage because now goods have to be loaded on the new ship. So the loading should be supervised and goods should be minimized and the damage which may be caused to the goods should be minimized during the transit. For this, they should always be obtaining of bill of lading by the exporter or airway bill in case it is going through airplane and multimodal transport documents in case it has to pass with the help of 2 3 modes finally to reach the destination. The exporter should verify the shipment details against contract and documentation so that loading should be proper. The exporter should also inform the buyer about the dispatch with relevant shipping and tracking details that may be shared through digital platforms and digital means for quick receival. Also, the exporter should retain copies of transport documents for banking and record keeping purposes. After that, the next stage comes the submission of documents to bank which are required for payment and financial transactions. It is the responsibility of the exporter to present all required documents to the negotiating or confirming bank within the stipulated time. This ensures compliance with letter of credit or documentary collection conditions. It is also important for the exporter to track document handling and obtain payment confirmation or acceptance. The exporter should also address discrepancies promptly to avoid any payment delays. And finally, the exporter should retain bank acknowledgements and swift confirmation for record keeping. After that, the last stage is post shipment follow up. Once the shipment has happened, after that also some important things are need to be done from the point of view of exporter. The exporter should monitor shipment status until arrival at destination port or delivery location. The exporter should provide assistance for custom clearance at importers and if agreed. There should be addresses there should be proper arrangement to address any issues related to cargo damage, delays, or partial shipments. Also, the exporter should obtain buyer's acknowledgement of received and satisfaction. And at the end, it is important to collect feedback to improve future order handling. Let us now try to focus on coordination with external agencies. We are discussing four important points under it. Freight forwarders and shipping lines are required for logistics. We can also have coordination with custom brokers that can help for clearance and documentation. Then there can be more coordination and cooperation between the insurance companies for cargo coverage and claims. And exporters may also coordinate with different chambers of commerce in different nations as well as certification bodies for better and easy documentation. The exporters can also coordinate with export promotion councils, that is EPCs, for different incentives as well as advisory support. The coordination with EPCs, export promotion councils, can result in more access to new markets. Let us now try to focus on the role of technology in order processing. One of the important things which can be used in processing orders is the ERP, that is Enterprise Resource Planning. These are the systems, they are integrated softwares that can be used to plan and manage the resources with the help of technology. In terms of exports, ERP systems can integrate production, inventory, logistics, and documentation workflows. Technology is also very important in export management. There are different export management software that can automate the regulatory filings and documentation for exporters. Similarly, there are certain real-time tracking platforms of the shipment agencies which can be used to check the visibility and transparency of the goods that are being exported. Also, with the rise of technology, blockchain have been a new phenomena which is used as solution to improve traceability and to reduce the documentation fraud in international trade. Also, in the end, digital platforms can be widely used and are being widely used in export order processing where they can facilitate collaboration with buyers and intermediaries. Dear students, let us now try to focus on what are the common challenges and best practices. The common challenges in exports order processing is the documentation errors, which may create disputes, customs delay, which may result in non-repetitive orders, inspection bottlenecks, which can again increase the cost of holding the goods at the shipment area, and capacity constraints. On the other hand, the best practices in export order processing include early planning, proactive communication, regular status tracking of the goods, as well as buffer time for contingencies. Best practices also include maintaining strict document control and version tracking. It also will lead to having stronger relationship with logistic partners and regulatory agencies. One of the best practice which is still needed for exporters is to conduct strong post shipment reviews for continuous improvement. Dear students, let us now try to conclude what all we had discussed in today's lecture. We have highlighted the importance of export order processing, and we have understood that export order processing transforms contractual obligations into tangible trade transactions. We have also appreciated that at each stage of export order processing, there is a requirement of precision, coordination, and regulatory compliance. Not only this, but we have also appreciated the point that timely execution and documentation are essential for payment realization and buyer satisfaction. Finally, effective order management strengthens exporter credibility and global competitiveness. Thus, in the end, it will be justified to state that mastery of export order processing is fundamental for sustainable success in international trade. My dear student, thank you very much for being with me in this session.